custodian from the Bulman. Did I say that right? Bulman? You'll say that? Right. Bulman clan near the Margaret River, and he is the Education Director of Cultural Infusion's First Nations program. And since 2002, Uncle Allan has delivered workshops to over 600,000 students. Accomplishment. That's fantastic. In his programs, Allan draws on lived experiences to promote reconciliation and awareness throughout Australia. Can we please welcome Uncle Allan?
Good morning, everybody. This place should have been busier. There should be more people here, yeah? That should be a message you guys go to give out to everybody. We're dealing with racism. It's a very important issue at all levels of the community, from all races, all people of the community, yeah? So if there's ever one again, you go to a conference, make sure there are people there. My name is Allan Harris, and I'd first like to acknowledge the Muwarana people. They're a clan of the Palawa people who are the traditional custodians of the land that we're meeting on today. I recognise their continuing connection to this land and its waters. Today, as we pay respect, I acknowledge that the Muwarana people are the traditional custodians of this land. I pay my respects to the elders, both past, present, emerging, and extend my respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who are present today. My name is Allan Harris, and I've been called Uncle Allan today, and that's very nice, thank you. I prefer to be called Big Al. And those that know me in the audience will know that's me. Everybody just called me that. And but thanks for the warm welcome. And I just want to say thank Fecca for inviting me here. So I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. Fecca states that it wants to continue to lead the conversation on important issues. One of those issues is how to bridge the gap between multicultural Australians and Australia's First Nation people. You cannot get more multicultural than Aboriginal Australia. With over 324 different tribes, Aboriginal Australia is made up of 324 countries, 324 languages, 324 sets of laws, 324 sets of traditions, 324 cultural lifestyles, 324 traditional dress, 324 traditional ceremonies. For Fecca to justify its existence in Australia, it must have a true and ongoing partnership with the First Nations people. Then and only then will both communities become stronger and more successful in achieving their goals of respect and cohesion. If Fecca truly believes that multicultural begins with recognising the rights and place in society held by Australia's First Peoples and the rich cultural heritage that their communities have long nurtured, then action needs to be seen to be taking place so we as the First Nations people can also move towards strengthening and empowering this most important alliance. What is racism? Racism is prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against somebody of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. We know, thanks to history, this form of racism is the belief that one race being superior to others can lead to dangerous actions of hate crimes, from hate crimes to genocide. This is based on the mere thought that some races do not even deserve to exist. There are many different kinds of racism: institutional racism, cultural racism, and personal racisms. Personal racism takes many forms and can appear in many different places. People often association of racism with acts of abuse or harassment. However, it doesn't need to involve violent or intimidating behaviour. It can come in the form of racial name calling through what some may think is a harmless joke. People may also be excluded from groups or activities because of where they come from. People may also be excluded from groups or activities because of their surname. But racism is more than just a word beliefs and actions. It includes prejudice, discrimination or hatred directed at someone because of their colour, ethnicity or national origin. While racism can be revealed through people's actions as well as their attitudes, sometimes racism may not be revealed at all. Not all racism is obvious. For example, prospective employees may look through a list of job applicants and decide not to interview somebody because of their surname. Racism includes all of the barriers that prevent people from enjoying life, dignity and equality in spite of their race. No child is born hating another child. Every child is a product of its own environment. Hatred and prejudice are taught. But thank goodness, love and acceptance can also be taught. Where do you fit in? It must be pinpointed and recognised that all forms of racism and racial discrimination are abhorrent to all mankind, and it must be eradicated by effective community action. The work of racial tolerance is not just the responsibility of our elected elders and politicians, nor is racial tolerance just the responsibility of the leaders of a particular cultural community. No, racial tolerance must be the responsibility of every man, every woman on the street. It is also the responsibility of all members of the wider community, and this includes all members of Fecca. Who are we? We are not just Indigenous Australians, as all of my people and I have been bracketed politically. No, we are human beings. We are Australia's First Nations peoples. Some of you may know the history of Aboriginal Australia and the struggles within the political, social, economic and cultural arenas. Australia's First Nation peoples and many other First Nation peoples around the globe are suffering and are in a crisis outlasting even the plagues of Europe. Our elders are sick, starving and sometimes homeless. Spiritually, they are wandering aimlessly. Our children are sick, starving, neglected, and their educational health and their welfare needs are not being supplied to them, even though it is a basic human right. Why are you judged towards me? All I'm doing is speaking the facts of genocide. I'm asking for equal rights. I'm questioning the crimes of humanity committed to my people, especially our women and children. I'm questioning the events surrounding stolen generation, of which I am a survivor. I'm marching against the deaths in custody, and I will speak out against racism. We need to come up with a solution that will spark a settlement for understanding and resolution for appeasement, as opposed to a misunderstanding of promised deliveries, thereby leading to active provocation. We are educators at all levels of the community. Every person has a mission in this life. We were taught at a very young age that if you do not complete your role, your mission or your purpose in this life, other people cannot begin their journey. So before you start your efforts of multiculturalism, each person here today must look at themselves and their attitudes. If there are any prejudice or prejudging thoughts or attitudes towards not only Australia's First Nation people, but to other nationalities, then you must clear your mind of these negative thoughts and speak positively of all people. Speak the truth in humanity to all people. Then and only then can you become a true leader. Like myself, each of you were put on this earth for a special reason. Many of you arrived in this country after suffering many horrible acts against you for either personal, political or even religious reasons. Some of you have suffered treatment from pure hatred to senseless violence. You must also understand that we as Indigenous people also suffered and had never ever felt before the pain of senseless torture that was to be delivered to 324 peaceful nations. Yes, it started 230 years ago, but the pain is still felt throughout communities today. What is the answer? My family and I, and I'll just introduce you to my wife Leonie, it's got to stand up. in many different programs, ranging from daycares to universities. We are managed by Cultural Infusion and have been over 17 years. Cultural Infusion is run by CEO Peter Mustafariadis. Peter shared an amazing vision with me 18 years ago. The vision was so inspiring, it was inevitable that we would work together. Without Cultural Infusion, Western creation would not be changing this country. We have now, personally in classrooms, reached over 1.8 million students. We're not the Wiggles. We're not the Wiggles. This is not TV, this is in the classroom. This is live. This is one-on-one sometimes. And the fact is, it's working. Reza and who else we got here?
Martin.
Martin, these two guys, we've got a desk downstairs. Yeah. I'll say something.
Table number 15.
Table number 15, remember them? Okay, don't book a seat, you can just turn up. Go down and check us out. Where to from here? Firstly, we need to find a place of pure healing. You see, healing doesn't mean the damage never existed. Healing means the damage no longer controls our life. We need leaders who are not in love with money, but in love with justice. We need leaders who are not in love with publicity, but in love with humanity. We need leaders who are not only strong in the fight, but strong in the mission. We need leaders who are not weak, but strong enough to stand tall and at times be prepared to stand alone if necessary. How do you bridge the gap between multicultural Australia and Australian First Nations people? You've got to live by choice, not by chance. Be motivated, not manipulated. Be useful, don't be used. Make changes and not excuses. Choose to excel and not to compete. Choose self-esteem and not self-pity. I choose to listen to my inner voice and not to the random opinions of others. Always remember, your life is a gift from the Creator. Your gift back to the Creator is what you do with your life. We do not need closure here. We need an openness. Education does this. Thank goodness ethics, pride, passion and vision can exist. This can only be achieved by way of a good education. We cannot predict the future, but we can shape the future, and you must invent it now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Perfectly timed with 10 seconds left. It was fantastic. Did you think that you were going to be getting a spoken word performance as well? So that's absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Our next speaker